When you love something made up of massive number of parts and you love it strongly, sometimes maybe even bitterly, it can be really hard to pick out your favorite bits. But I'm going to try to do just that. I'm going to try to pick out my 10 favorite comic book characters. Will I be able to do that? Let's find out. In this video, I'm going to talk about my 10 favorite comic book characters. And I want to stress that it's just my favorite. I'm not saying they're the best or they're the most important or even they should be your favorite. I just want to share what my favorite comic book characters are. And I have absolutely zero interest in fighting about it. I'm just excited to share. And truthfully, it was a pretty good exercise for me because I've never tried to whittle my favorite comic book characters down to a list of 10 before. And it was pretty tough, but it was also a lot of fun. I also had to think a little bit about why a character might be someone's favorite. And of course, the someone in this scenario is this funny looking guy right here. But the nice thing about one's own favorites is that there's pretty much no wrong reason. Maybe you just like the way they look, or you like their power set, or they were the first comic you ever read, or maybe they were in your favorite cartoon, or they were portrayed in a movie by your favorite actor. Maybe it's simply just the most prominent character in your favorite story. Heck, maybe they're from your hometown. Any reason is a good reason to like a comic book character. Personally, I think any reason is fine. I don't really subscribe to the school of thought that you have to prove you're a fan. I'll have a whole lot of different reasons why I like some of the characters. And, to be honest, some of those reasons are probably going to seem pretty silly to you. And I'll even have to admit maybe on a couple that I don't really have a reason. I'm going to start off by grouping my favorite characters into like a category or a type, and it's in no particular order. I'm just trying to wrestle with it and help myself whittle it down to 10. It's just an exercise that I went through, and I'm just sharing it with the folks watching. And then once I've got my 10 favorite characters selected, I'm going to try to hammer them out into some kind of rank order. And like I said before, I'm going to try my best to give some reasons behind why each one is my favorite. But as a rule, you really shouldn't have to justify your favorites to anyone. Just, I like them. That's all you really should have to say. So here we go. The first character is Deadly Youth. And for some reason, I'm a sucker for this character type. The killer kid, the sinister innocent, the middle school vigilante. Why is this my favorite subtype? I'm not really sure, but I probably need therapy. Maybe it relates back to the bitter feelings I had in my youth before I grew up and kind of learned how to be happy. My first favorite character of this type is Hit Girl, Mindy McCready. And when Mark Millar's Kick-Ass came out back in 2008, Hit Girl was something entirely new to me. It was a serious, mind-blowing moment. I couldn't believe I'd missed a messed up, emotionally manipulated juvenile killing machine all my life. The character is captured perfectly by John Romita Jr.'s art, and honestly, it might be the last JR art that I really was passionate about. But the truth is, I hadn't been missing this character type all my life. It had already been around for a couple of years in the form of Grant Morrison's Damian Wayne, or at least his interpretation of Damian Wayne, beginning in 2006, and that's why Damian Wayne is also one of my favorites. Next, we have Family and Friends, or Normies if you prefer. This is where newspaper editors like J. Jonah Jameson and Perry White fit in. Characters like Jimmy Olsen or Lois Lane or Rick Jones or May Parker, all of those types of characters fit in this category. And I love it when writers have fun with those types of characters. But for me, no character's been used more ways and more fun ways by more writers than the world's most famous butler, Alfred Pennyworth. I mean, Benson and Joffrey, maybe Tim Curry from Clue, they're all famous butlers, but there's only one Alfred. Well, actually, there's been a lot of different Alfreds. Alfred has been a classic old guy. That's certainly how he started in the comics and on Batman 66. But he's also been a tough guy, showcased on the TV show Gotham. He's been a suave James Bond type with his own show, and Alfred was even a supervillain for a while, a telekinetic menace known as the Outsider. He just always seems to come back around to be one of the most awesome, underestimated characters in comics. Everybody knows him. He's done pretty much everything imaginable, and a lot more readers love this character than you might realize. To me, he is hands down the best normie and most definitely a top 10 character. My next category is home cooking, and what I mean by that is a character with ties to the place that you call home. This is a pretty narrow passage for me on account of living in West Virginia. Growing up, the only character I knew with West Virginia ties was Rom the Space Knight. And, he crash landed to Earth in a fictional town in West Virginia. That was really his tie. But in fairness, I was living in Kentucky when I really got into comic books. I really enjoyed the X-Men, and with Cannonball being a character from Kentucky, I guess he could have been a nominee for this category. However, in recent years, a local comic star has burst into prominence, and that's Wynonna Earp. She is my pick from this category. To be clear, Wynonna Earp, the character, isn't from where I live, but the character's creator, Bo Smith, is one of my hometown homies. He is a great writer who has worked for both Marvel and DC, but his highest profile creation is Wynonna Earp, creator-owned, first published at Image, then taken to IDW. And I've met Bo. I've been around him not related to conventions. He's given me autographed copies as a gift. He's even sent me a handwritten note. What I'm saying is the guy has been very kind to me, so how could his top character not be one of my favorites? And Wynonna has changed a lot over the years, but she really kicked into high gear when the comic was adopted into a TV show. Wynonna is a supernatural, monster-killing cowgirl in the Black Badge division of the U.S. Marshals. She's like Buffy meets the Winchesters with a really big gun. Given that combination, I'm sure I'd love her even if I didn't know Bo. I call this next category just good fun, and that's exactly how I feel about it. These are funny characters that don't make me laugh out loud necessarily, but they definitely make me LOL. These are funny, silly characters that remind me of a simpler time. It's just really good escapism. My first choice from this category is Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham. When I was in 5th grade, I went to a local store that looked like a giant goose. No kidding, it looked like a goose. And I looked over the spinner rack every once in a while, and I would pick up whatever random comic had a cover that looked cool to me. But everything changed when I saw the first issue of the Star Comics Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham, which actually came out a little bit after his first appearance in Marvel Tales. But this swine-themed comic became the first comic I actually tried to never miss an issue. This comic is so special to me and to my lifelong sophomoric sense of humor that I'll never not think about it. Peter Porker was a spider that was bitten by a radioactive pig. How great is that? It is impossible for me to be sad or to frown when I look at Peter Porker. Plastic Man is another character that just fills me with absolute joy. As a criminal turned hero, he is a sweet redemption story for young folks. And my love of Plastic Man definitely goes back to the Ruby Spears cartoon. Gee, did I love the way it felt when I watched that. One nice thing about Plastic Man is no matter what you like, he can become it due to his stretchy coolness. The next category is simply, I like the way they look. And I think the name says it all. I look at them and I like it. And my first character from this category is the Blob. That's right, a hefty X-Men villain is one of my top 10 characters. I might not be the only person who lists the Blob as one of their all-time favorites, but if there's another one, I haven't met him. So I said I like the way he looks. So what exactly do I like? Well, when I was a chubby 10-year-old, I didn't get to see many cool chubby guys in comics, but I saw the Blob. He was chubby, but he was also tough. He could go toe-to-toe with anybody in a fight. I also liked Falcon. That red and white costume was unlike any other, and those wings strapped to his arms just seemed so cool to me when I was a kid. And to this day, I still believe the Falcon Mego figure is one of the best looking action figures ever made. The Secret Wars Falcon figure is a close second. I like them both very much. I really wish I'd bought one of them back then. My final category is deadly serious, and these are the kind of characters that are tattoo material. There's no joking around with these guys because they never smile. And first from this category is Rorschach. This is the character from Watchmen that has haunted my dreams at times. And if you didn't know, I'm really fond of Watchmen. I have issue 1 up on the wall, I have a wooden piece of Watchmen art at my desk, and I have the beautiful, way oversized Watchmen Archive Edition, and Rorschach is my favorite character from that story. My wife even painted me this stained glass Rorschach art for my birthday one year. Heck, I even had a Rorschach birthday cake once. Rorschach is the only comic character I've full-on dressed up like as an adult. I had a childhood nowhere near as rough as Rorschach's, but I still relate a little bit to the crummy life the vigilante had as a kid. You can listen to my very long Rorschach podcast episode if you want the details. Rorschach also spoke what I think is the greatest line in all of comics, and he spoke it off panel, and everyone still remembers it. That's really special. Also in this category, and rounding out my top 10, is Magneto. I have told people who know me it's a good thing I don't have superpowers, because if I did, I would be Magneto. Trust me, I have a long list of enemies I would really like to smite. Personally, I think Magneto was right. Humanity has done nothing but take big steamy stinkers on Magneto his whole life, so why should he have any empathy for the masses? He sees Charles as a noble fool, and Magneto has decided he has the skills and he's ready to flex, and I love that. In case you can't tell, I've got a touch of bitterness in my own soul. Maybe that's why I like comics. I can relate to the bitterness, but I also love the distraction of all that silly stuff at the same time. Now comes the hard part. I've got to put these 10 characters in order. And I know traditionally you start with number 10 and then you count your way up to number 1, but I don't think I can do that because I don't really know who my number 10 is, at least not from the get-go. But I'm 100% positive who my number 1 is, so I'm just going to start there and work my way down. And my number 1 is Rorschach. He's been my number 1 for a long time. That's the best way to start this final list. At number 2, I'm going to have to put Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham. The fun and the joy. You know, when I'm old and frail, I'll still be able to grin at Spider-Ham comics. I hope my kids bring me some to whatever facility I'm in at the time. At number 3, I'm going to say Magneto. Look, this is my favorite villain. I love this character and his story and how well he's been treated over the years by filmmakers and storytellers alike. Hit Girl, she's my favorite deadly child. When my daughter was younger, I even convinced her that Hit Girl was cool. I think she's a solid number 4. At number 5, I'm going to put Wynonna Earp, my hometown hero, another character that I've bonded with my daughter over, watching episodes of the show on Netflix together. She's just great. Seriously, if you haven't read or watched Wynonna Earp in the last 5 years, you really need to. At number 6, I'm going to put Plastic Man, a classic here. There's no such thing as a bad time for Plaz. And seriously, go look for episodes of the old cartoon. You'll thank me for it. At number 7, I'm going to put Alfred Pennyworth, the baddest butler in comics. What more can I say? He's Mr. Belvedere with a mean streak. At number 8, Damian Wayne. And I got to say, I'm kind of surprised he's not higher. But when I look over the list, this seems about right. The Falcon, the best Mego ever made, coming in at number 9. And then we've got the Blob. Last on the list, but definitely not least. There are no losers here, and each and every one is a top 10 character. So thanks for checking out my list. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'd also kind of like to know who some of your favorite characters are. You don't have to give me a whole top 10 list, but I'm really eager to hear even 1 or 2 if you want to share. I totally would get a kick out of that. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel while you're here. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. You hit the bell for notifications. You'll never miss an episode. And until next time, remember, heroes are super.